Information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
Innovative, revolutionary, stellar development, purest universal knowledge. In a transformative, futuristic design. The Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit. The very first new evolutionary spaceship technology has been rolled out for mass production. Our Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit is constructed from high-quality materials carefully selected by our team of experts. Embedding the essence of the new GAN's plasma science and technology, it uses collective plasma field technology for changing and enhancing the environment of the body of the man. This new plasma enhancement changes the environment of the body to allow it to return to its natural, balanced energetic condition, as in the womb of the mother, allowing every cell in the body of the man to find its natural, original field strength balance. The shape and field distribution in this new space plasma technology replicates the inner structure of the universe and replicates the balance fields from which the man was created at the point of inception in the womb of the mother, not only receiving balance in the physical, but also in the emotional sense too. For the first time in the history of man, a system has been developed and delivered which not only enhances the physical body of the man, but also enhances the emotional part of the user of the system, hence reducing and eliminating many problems that could not be solved in the world of science, to bring the body of the man into near perfection, as at the time of birth. This new spaceship technology can be within the reach of every man today and can be ordered by medical practitioners, sports specialists and healthcare centres. The Universal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, the future you have been waiting for, is here. The journey from space to spaceship technology has started. Every order is subject to a contractual agreement and might require additional accessories priced separately for applications according to each case. You can order or contact us at office@at.kfm.global for additional information.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 393rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, August 12th, 2021. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the public teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond, and I'll be a host today. And I'll be hosting, as usual, Mr. Mehran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation. And I believe he's ready to go with today's workshop. Hello, Mr. Keshe. Are you ready and able as usual?
Yes. Good morning, good day to you, as usual, wherever and whenever you listen to this series of Knowledge Seekers program at the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. We welcome you back to another session of what I call learning and, in a way, expanding the knowledge. We've been going on for some weeks without having what we call a normal session of questions and answers. And as usual, through the questions, we teach more. And I think today is a good day to bring this up. We give a free panel hand to those who are present to ask their questions and any questions which might come under the other parts of the teaching channels like YouTube and the rest. Those of you who are looking forward to go on the TV channel, the TV channel is getting recorded, it's been set up. We still have some what we call final touches to put, and it'll be loaded up afterwards. But hopefully by next week, the TV channel will be up and running. We will not do the live presentations from the studio as a regular basis. We might do whenever possible we see appropriate to be there. But overall, the television station and the studios are in position to up and run, and we open it to the what we call the knowledge seekers, representatives of the KF TV, to be able to use it. Those of you who are knowledge seekers and representative of the TV channel, please go to the representative chat room. There is some news in there. And those of you who are the representative of the press of the Keshe Foundation TV, you can request for your TV what we call press passes and other things which goes with it. These are legal documents we need, and then you have to be appointed by your community to be able to receive it. And so hopefully everything is now up and running and the TV news is ready to go. On the other hand, we are pre-advance organizing a lot of other things. The conference of the 4th and the 5th of September is moved to the first weekend of October due to a lot of things which are happening in the background. And so if you have booked the ticket for this venue, please change it to the first week of October, as in September we have commitments which is beyond the Keshe Foundation, and we are waiting to be called upon to what we call join this structure to be able to deliver more for the Keshe Foundation works. And the September third week for agriculture is moved to October. The Keshe Foundation Lens Center is up and running from 1st of October. And those of you who want to come and view, you're quite welcome. But you have to, as usual, make a booking with the Keshe Foundation website, when you're coming, who's coming, and the rest of it. And the days we have visitors, we tell you they cannot be used. The center stays closed for international visitors who come to see the systems. The new vertical unit has been moved into the location of the Lens Center for the first time. You will see it. And many new things which the Keshe Foundation is developing will be added to it. Keshe Foundation announces that hopefully by next Thursday, we will have the promotion video ready for you that we are promoting, and you will see it in the Keshe Foundation sales in the shop or the store, the sale of the new breathing masks for prevention and processing of the viruses. These are masks produced in the Keshe Foundation factories, which we are major shareholder in China, and we ship directly in China in boxes of 20. At the moment, we have valued them at €2 per piece. Each box will be about €40, and is for immediate shipping. We are in negotiation on the other hand to governments and delivery to major corporations and so will start. And if our demand or our production exceed or be less than what the request exceeds, we will add factories into this line in China very rapidly. So if you are looking for breathing systems or what we call the mask, not only just to be a mask, but for prevention of the what we call viruses, and even if you have virus, to make it easier for what we call processing, you can purchase this mask from the Keshe Foundation store, and the quantities we produce are about 100,000 to 200,000 per day, that we can meet the demand in the contractual agreement. So we have, as we promised you, we have moved to this cycle, and very soon we will introduce what we call the oxygen machines, which use the same principle. The machines are produced and manufactured in Iran, and all the exports will be from Iranian offices of the Keshe Foundation. We will announce this in the coming time. But as we're going through the process, the new oxygen machines produced by the Iran medical companies and adopted for the use of the GANs in breathing system will be introduced, exported out of Iran to any destination across the world. In due course, we will release this data hopefully by next couple of weeks. As I said, we are linking up and working with the knowledge seekers and companies which are connected to the Keshe Foundation to bring the latest possible. The Keshe, what we call enhancement mask unit, is produced on the high level of what we call medical certification for the factory, and the same will be with the oxygen machines, which will be announced in the next couple of weeks. At the moment, there will be more machinery will be added to the Keshe Foundation system. There's a big shortage of oxygen machines around the world, and the trials in the hospitals in Iran has shown the use of the new technology has speeded up the recovery of the patients. And so we are putting this for, again, clinical trial around the world, the way we did with the glasses. But the experts of these systems, once we announce it, will come from the Keshe Foundation associated groups and factories directly into the production and export out of Iran. As I said, we extend our work into the Iranian territory with delivering high quality systems across onto the export into the market. And in the coming time, most probably before end of this year, we will show the first transportation systems which the Keshe Foundation is working on, and hopefully we'll see the first result. The expansion of the technology is rapid, and you will see more of it. And as you are aware, we are expanding in a way to introduce the technology to many people as possible across the world. And we see what we call the GANs enhancement technology in breathing system as one of the major ways to enter in the international arena, where everybody will see and the Keshe Foundation will be exposed by its technology internationally. In the coming time, most probably in the next few weeks, as you see on the pictures here, a new set of sugar mugs, cups, and pressure cups and what we call enhancement cups, or what we call cup of life, will be introduced from our factory in China, where the cups carry the instruction printed in several languages on the cup. And it will be again, the export is dispatched directly from our companies in China. We are pre-working these, and gradually we'll expand these into the other dimensions. With the introduction of the production from China, we will reduce the mass production units drastically that become affordable by everyone to be able to buy, even to be marketed in supermarkets. Again, this is a part of the expansion of the new factory in China, which allows us to work on such things, and the Keshe Foundation China team are working on it. In the expansion of the technology, we need to understand more. We need to be able to develop technologies that brings the use of the plasma technology in a household way, that we can apply it in every way and possible, what we call applications. In an upcoming time, Keshe Foundation will release 3 new products, which will bring a change in the production of many materials that we produce, and in the, what we call, in the health application fields. And gradually we introduce these systems as it is on the international arena. What we explained before, that today we try to make the session what we call question and answer, that by asking questions from each other, we might be able to explain more. On the screen, we see 2 units. One is the enhancement pen unit, and one is the air enhancement unit. The pen enhancement unit will be joined by the original Keshe Foundation pad. The paint pads will release a new version of enhanced paint pad systems. These will come out of the Austrian factory of the Keshe Foundation, and they'll be valued around about €150. They are extremely effective, and they are produced especially for what they set out from the original structure of the paint pads. The new paint pads are, in a way, the completion of what we call the enhancement systems we had before. As many of you have tested the new paint pen, you've seen the rapid effectiveness of this operation. The same will go with what we call air enhancement unit. This unit has been more or less to its final position, and we will release what we call a new version of these in the next week or 2 with different applications that will be for total disinfecting environment. This is important for us to achieve, where we create a condition for operating rooms or people would like to use it in different areas of the house. This will be on the launch of the Keshe Foundation technology in the coming weeks. We go back to our teaching part, and if there are any questions which is relevant to the teaching of the past few weeks, please ask and see how we can, with it, expand the knowledge of all of us in this respect. Rick, do you see any questions or?
Well, yes, indeed. The question that you were kind of expecting is the first question that's come up from Freed in the live stream, who asked, "Dear Mr. Keshe, what is the connection regarding graphene and nanocoding? Is there any relation, and can you bring some clarity regarding natural processes contrary to manipulated ones?"
We were discussing this just before the teaching with Rick, as it has been raised in the Spanish and the Portuguese Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers. They have started creating fear, and this fear again has started, we know, through what we call specific channels to create mayhem through the lack of understanding of the knowledge seekers. They're using the innocence of the knowledge seekers to frighten them away from the Keshe Foundation. And it's done by, again, launched from the basis we have seen from the past, and it's deliberately targeted on these two communities. Understand the science. Nano is counting individuality. Graphene is a shape. As I explained to the Spanish group last night, nano is the size of an atom, which will be in singularity, which is 10 to the minus 9 zeros of the meter. Graphene is when the nano, a single atom, in the matter state takes structure. We see it. All of you know this if I explain to you in a simple way. A corn is an individual, is a nano, is a single element. When you heat it up in a pan and it expands to a popcorn, then it becomes a graphene. It has a shape, a dimension. In the scientific world, you have a carbon in a gaseous structure. You use it to burn, for charcoal, for barbecue. You use it for conductivity in motors. Thus, in an individual, we can separate two individual atoms. If we heat it up in the center core of the Earth under a high pressure and temperature and blow it up into the air, in a way, into the atmosphere, it could be in the water or air, at that point of the transition of the high heat and low, it explodes into diamond. So carbon on its own is a nano. When it becomes a diamond, it becomes graphene. The other graphene, which we know, and every one of us during this program or during the day today, from the time you wake up and you go to sleep, will produce liters of it in a form of gases which you, what I call, release from your anus, and we call it fart. And if it has a smell and odor, it becomes graphene of the gas. This is the simplest way it can be explained. A graphene is a dimensional structure of an atom which gets itself its volume. Odor, a smell, is a graphene of a gas. Your stomach creates a gas, and according to the fields of the foods you have consumed, to tell your nose if the food was good or bad, and it was no difference, you get no smell. If it smells, it tells by smelling from your bottom end to the top end of your nose that the nose knows what to process, don't eat this food again, or there is a problem. Or you understand your extraction of the matter into a gas in the what we call crystal structure as an odor, which becomes a smell, informs your brain this food is dangerous or you ate something wrong. So all of us know what nano is, and all of us knows what the graphene is. So people who have this problem, which we discussed this before, is that when you eat food and you release gases to your mouth and you smell it, that's a graphene. It's a graphene of a gas, which in a structure you ate the food in atomic, in your stomach became individuality of a nanostructure, and then if it changed to gases, which the stomach doesn't agree with it, it releases as a odor. So we are created out of nanostructure gas, and our body processes it into graphene. We do not have to be scared of the word. The reason graphene has taken shape, if you read the book, which is to do the paper with the graphene, you understand the Keshe Foundation was one of the, or maybe the first organization in the world in early 20s, which managed to create graphene from the atmosphere. Which means for the first time we created the nano layers in our Coca-Cola bottle, and in that gap we managed to capture a gas of carbon in that gap, which gave it individuality and gave it the graphene of carbon. Which means we managed to trap it as a gas inside it became, and then due to compression of the layers as more and more space was made, we could crystallize it like diamond. All of us in one shape or another, like in our nails, in our tooth, we have and we handle nano and what we call graphene in the structure of our body. So we should not be scared of terminology. If you don't understand it, they scare you. In the present time, nanotechnology in the past 20 years has taken hold, and Keshe Foundation has been one of the leading organizations in introducing production of nanomaterials in a simple way. We first showed it in a Coca-Cola bottle, and then many of you do it to caustic and the rest of it. So we all know what it is. We have a molecule which is a combination of, and then when we split it, it becomes single atoms, it becomes what we call nano. You have a nano of a carbon, you have a nano of gold, you have a nano of anything, which means singularity, individual atom. Has no size and dimension, because a nano of a hydrogen has a different size than a nano of gold. Then when you put these gases, as you produce them, they cannot exist individually most of the time. They need a gravitational field of the earth, which means they need the inertial connection, which in the air is oxygen. So we create what we call magnetic gravitational fields of a carbon between the two plates of the zinc and nano-coated copper. In attracting the carbon from the air through its magnetic field collection, it changes it into a nanocarbon. But the minute the nanocarbon enters your salt water, it takes the energy of the oxygen from your water and it converts it into molecular gas, which is a CO2. So we understand the process. We do not produce the graphene of CO2. We produce gas of CO2, which is in the energy form. You cannot eat a diamond just because it's a graphene of carbon. In that process, we fully understand. Now the scientists have used individual atoms and they call it a nano. Nano of what? You have a car. Is it a Mercedes? Is it a Mini? Is it a Volkswagen? Or is it a Jaguar? You have a car. Call it nano. When they tell you nano, nano of what? And people get frightened. When they talk to you about graphene, graphene of what? What have you expanded in your injections that you call it a graphene? And 99% of the material in these processes newly come out because of the viruses we know is not even graphene, because it's not easy to produce graphenes. Not with the present knowledge in the world of science. They are using a terminology that people don't understand, and it looks very advanced. Knowledge seekers, you know this for 20 years. You know more about nano and graphene than the scientists in more advanced universities like Yale, in whatever top universities in the world. In Iran, Iran has been the leading nation in nanotechnology for 15 years, according to United Nations, because we understand the simplicity of it. They make it big to frighten. So when they tell you they use a nano, say nano what? Cabbage? Nano of a carrot? What have they nano-sized? Which means they have managed to become to its individuality. And then when you have a nano, you create a magnetic field. Because it's a dynamic. It's a single atom made of the plasma, as we know, and it's dynamic. It's the way we do with the plates. We nanocoat, we create a new dynamic system between the two plates, magnetic field, we absorb carbon from. So now when they say they put a nano in it, or they put graphene in it, this is a chemical graphene of what? Hydrogen, oxygen, of CO2, because it could be in the state of the matter state. And then because it's in a nano state and it's dynamic, in interaction with your blood, which has an iron in it, that's why it's red, you produce it in your cups, it creates a magnetic field. It can create different strengths of magnetic field according to different blood composition. If you're an O, or you're an A, or you're an AB, or you have different composition of blood circulation. We do this in our electric motors. When we pass electric current through wires or whatever, we create a magnetic field, dynamo. So now the chemicals they put into any kind of injection in interaction with the fields of your blood, which is ion-based, is in a GANS plasma state, can create a magnetic field environment in your body. And because it's ion-based connected, it can show magnetic field. You might be able to stick a spoon to you and say, you can do, I didn't do it. It happens with other vaccinations we know before. If you receive the injection from measles or whooping cough or whatever, you had this. It's not something new. If you receive a specific type of injections for chemotherapy, you create the same thing. Because the chemicals in interaction with your blood create a magnetic field. You call it aura. Your aura is a magnetic field of your body. Depends what you eat, it changes your aura. Now they inject in your body something for a virus, something for your headache, something for your back pain. Depends on the strength of the chemical and how it interacts with the iron of your blood and the plasma condition, it changes your aura. And if it can be reduced rapidly within the structure of the muscles and the skin, you might get some interactions. So do not be scared with what is coming out. We saw the first magnetic field changes with the original chemotherapies. This is not something new. Now people can video something and they start a scaremonger. Nano and graphene is part of understanding a science. Number one, does not make it a cow, a one cow, One man, one car. It's just number one. So it's nano. When you make it to become one car, so now we know a car. Now is this a graphene? And then you have to say what car it is. And then this is different combination of the chemicals they use. And the science of the man has not reached the point to produce graphene randomly the way they want. So they're using a word which make it very advanced, but in fact they haven't managed to do. When we produced the first graphene in 2005, submitted to IMEC, the most advanced nanotechnology company in the world, they said we produce graphene. And we're using a nuclear material, and Keshe Foundation became a terrorist organization because we produce graphene out of fresh air with a simple technology which we all use. But we produced a graphene of carbon which came from the Coca-Cola bottle. And it's diamond, it's worth billions. We gave it to you free. It's in the book. Go and have a look. The graphs, the pictures of where it's submitted and confirmed. So, understand, yes, you have a nano. Nano of what? You have a graphene. Graphene of what? What have you managed to graphize? If it's a carbon, it's the most beautiful thing for your body. If they can create graphene of carbon in an injection that enters the body, most of the illnesses will be eradicated. But they haven't managed to do that. When you produce gans of CO2, you don't produce one type of gans of CO2. You produce a spectrum of the carbon energy, which can help connect, reconnect, disconnect all your neural system as is needed by the body. So, in a way, scientifically, we have to invite the new knowledge in, but understand what it is they have or they claim they have made a graphene of. Which car are we driving? A Mini, a Rolls Royce, a truck, a ship? And then understand. We've seen this in China in past few days. How China, what we call agricultural university, which collaborated with us in growing harvest in Inner Mongolia, they thought they found the recipe and they added part of our technology into the system they wanted to grow, but it wasn't growing that big the way they saw with us. So now they come back and say, can you explain? We want you to be part of the Beijing University. We didn't do, they couldn't do, they gave a lot of lectures around the world, but they couldn't explain how we produce graphene in the structure of the growth of materials. Understand the knowledge, nobody can escape. This is one of the reasons in all my teaching in the past few weeks, I have said many times, when we take man into space, man will be knowledgeable. That no one, whether they claim they can frighten you or they become your prophet. And this is what has happened in the Spanish and Portuguese group because of what we've seen, the people we kicked out of the Keshe Foundation. They're trying to say we know something just because we shared pillow they have no knowledge of. They never even made nanomaterial ganses till a year before. Connection by pillow does not bring knowledge. I call it a prostitution. They're trying to prostitute the knowledge which they have no understanding of. And they're using the way they live their lives to live the scared and what we call knowledge seekers. Understand the technology. understand what it means and how it works. Then nobody can frighten you, and nobody in a space becomes a prophet because does something which you do not understand. Now you understand why we say the knowledge has to be understood. The man has to change from inside before we take man to space. Because then you'll be abusing yourself and the others to lack of understanding the mechanism. Technology is made so simple that a child of 5 years old in a bathroom in China makes it, understands it, and knows how to use it. A boy in Africa makes cancers for his parents that they're safe from illnesses. I don't think a white man in Spain or in Brazil is less than those two, unless you allow yourself to be abused. Nano, graphene, magnetic fields are all part of it. Interaction of the fields of gas creates electric flow, it creates magnetic field. This is how this planet was created, this is how the universe was created. Now it's become a point of fright because some people have found out how to frighten you. Understand the science, then nobody can be a magician. I even explained to you how Christ, what we call resurrection, has happened. Now you can resurrect anything if you have the energy, if you can transfer what we call the graphene energy of a size to a body. You become Christ, or you understood the technology and the knowledge behind it the way it was done. You transfer energy from one dynamic graphene, which is your body, your soul, to another one. Now you become dangerous. Understand my technology, that no one can fool you the way they have ransacked into Spanish and Brazilian by what I call prostitutes of the knowledge, which have no knowledge of. They only knew prostitution. Don't let people scare you. Understand the technology. I especially attended the Spanish group last night because of this. Cups of life. You've seen how he has saved millions across the world. One cup, one life. Understand how to use it. Understand how to manipulate it as the virus changes, because we're going to have millions of these viruses in the universe. How are we going to handle it? Once we understand it, we can walk it, we can run with it, we can jump with it, because we know how to walk, how to stand. Understand scientific terminology and how it transferred from one side of the science into another. A carbon is a conductor worth nothing. We blow it into its graphene, is what women get their life for, to have it on their fingers as a diamond. So if somebody tells you graphene is dangerous, ladies, please throw all your diamonds away. And the same with the gentlemen who like to buy it for them. You give them graphene that it can kill them. And next time, when you go to a shop and you buy popcorn, Don't put it in the mouth of your child. The graphene can kill you. How many of us have died of popcorn? And how many of us eat the corn? It's part of our structure. It's part of our life. Ignorant people using other ignorant people in knowledge can scare them. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. See, we have a question from Jan in the YouTube. How can we produce GANs of oxygen?
GANs of oxygen is very easy to produce, but it needs a specific equipment. Because if you try to make a GANs of iron, you have the same problem. GANs of iron is very difficult, but you can make GANs of iron in conjunction with another GANs. You make what we call protein or amino acid, and in conjunction with the GANs of iron in nano state, you produce blood. GANs of oxygen is gravitational magnetic field in a gaseous and in a liquid state in this planet, because most of our gaseous conditions in the atmosphere contain moisture which carries oxygen in it. So you're trying to make a magnet, and that's your problem. It's just trying to make a GANs of a magnet. That's the problem. Is in trying to make a GANs of a radiation. I can make a GANs of gamma ray. I make a GANs of X-rays. I make systems that can produce massive amount of uranium and plutonium in the radiation level. I don't need uranium. I know the process of how to bring fields in gravitational field condition anywhere in the universe to create uranium or plutonium or oxygen. You are dealing with gravitational reference point, which is oxygen in liquid and gas. In a solid state, gravitational field is based on the iron 56. So if you're trying to make a what we call GANs of oxygen, you have to develop a technology, which we have done, for absorption and separation. And this is a technique well understood by us in the Keshe Foundation. But holding oxygen on its own in its nano state or what graphene state, it's not difficult, it's easy, but you have to understand principle of what we call inertia of the planet. You cannot make it so easy. It's many people have tried. It's the same if you have tried to make GANs of iron. Through GANs of iron, it's easier for those who make like nano-materials of it, GANs state, like a lot of people who make deuterium, they find that they have a GANs of iron with them. And they say we have a deuterium. It's usually black in color. And very easily, you just put a magnet to it, push it by the side of the glass, you see it come up, you see it's an iron. Because they cannot produce the true deuterium. The true deuterium is created through a different process. Many of you have made deuterium black in color, sometimes slightly reddish, and you say, I made deuterium. The only place I've seen true deuterium be made is in China. And we made it in the lab there because it's done from interaction of fields. And I've seen a lot of people, even in our lab people brought it to me. I said, I want deuterium, and they brought me to me. I put a magnet against it. I said, this is not deuterium. This is a nano ion. You cannot even convert it to the GaNs of itself, because you have a battle with the magnetic gravitational field of the Earth, which is magnetizes iron. Those few GaNs you see with the iron are the what we call Fe58, Fe60. They sit more on the copper side, the strength, not on the iron F54, F56. And our body works on that level of gases. We have an iron, but we don't stick to the ground, because our iron is F58, F59, and some F56. Very little. And oxygen is the same. Oxygen is a magnetic field gravitational point of the liquid and the gaseous on this planet, even though 50–60% of it is nitrogen. It's not easy to make unless you know a process, and it's something you don't really need, but if you can produce it, it's a radical, and it can create a lot of beautiful conditions. And nobody who has managed to do it in Keshe Foundation. Claims are a lot, but no one, because I know the system, I understand the principle, it's very, very hard. Any other question?
Okay, let's carry on here with the Q&A in the Zoom with Doug, who asks, can the new mass be reused by an individual wearer? I guess
Yes.
he means,
yes.
Can they be like washed, or how would that happen?
They are not washable, but they can be reused.
Okay.
They are the disposable. There are the disposable, what we call masks, and these are, I send them to you, Rick, and let me put it that way. I send them to you. You can just write. Have you received it?
Yes, give me a minute here.
We call it plasma enhanced breathing system.
Just a minute, I have to save it in a different way here. Okay. Just a second here, so it's a little difficulty getting my images tuned in. Bear with me. Here we go.
If you have a problem, I try through it to the second system.
No, I've got it here now. Just have to share it. There we go.
These are the two masks which will be marketed by the Keshe Foundation. No, not these, please.
Oops.
I just sent you the mask.
Sent me both of them, but
Yeah.
sorry about that. Okay. So is there anything else you'd like to say about the
No,
mask?
just share the mask. These are the masks which will be done. The picture you released is the factory which is certified, medical certification.
Well, I guess people got a sneak peek at that, but very brief.
Yeah, this is a small part of the production. We have tested these and we see a huge demand for this, and we can push the production to several millions. The new factory in Yunjian allows us to move into these, what we call rapid deployment of the technology for masses. We are majority shareholder in this company on what we call it, on production. And so we have a controller of all intellectual rights and everything else.
Okay. Perhaps we can move into some other questions here. Let's see. Let's go back to YouTube again from Lisa in Australia, the Plasma School Library, Australia. She asks,
I'm gonna release something to you.
Okay.
That well, I'll do this will be easier. This is the way will be. Just go back. Just 1 second, please. This is the packaging of the product which you will receive more or less. Let me see if I can share here. This is the packaging of the product which you will receive 20 per pack. This will be marketed on the Keshe Foundation website from next week. This, in a way, allows you to use the masks in high-risk areas or whatever with more certainty in application. It's a certified masks, and it will be shipped from the Chinese factories of the Keshe Foundation. Any other question?
Okay. Krasmir is asking in YouTube, Mr. Keshe, can you clarify how the atomic mass relates to plasma and plasma interaction?
I know nothing about atomic mass. I'm just a layman nuclear physicist. The plasma has a different structure than mass in the matter state. And its field strength in respect to its environment, it always stays constant, as mass is irrespective of interaction of gravity. Plasmas, as we call it, gases, have a dynamic expansion, what we call mass ratio. In the paper I've written about the mass and weight, I explained this in part of it. A plasma, a gas plasma, as we have it, is a dynamic. It can open up and interact with any gravitational field strength and match into it. Where the mass is the collection of the field interactions on a position and a field. If I take a mass of, let's say, carbon, and take it into an environment which a carbon cannot exist, or field strength of it is imbalance, you won't have it there, it won't manifest itself. But if you take a gas from Earth and take it to Moon, you still have the same gas. Because it's due to its expansion of fields, it matches to the field environment and it can manifest. And this is part of the what we call transmutation of future to come. If I transfer your mass on the Moon or another position where that mass is the same, but it's a different gravitational field of the environment, it will not show itself, even it has a mass of its own. But a gas always exists and adapts itself according to the spectrum of the fields it has, because it's already opened up. This is a part of a new knowledge which we gradually try to bring in. This is what I explained in the last week or the week before, and this is part of the problems that the scientists have had. They said they managed to transfer one atom, but part of it was left behind, or you transfer a mouse, but its tail is left behind. That happens when you create, and through matter state, you try to create energy fields. It's a different way when you work with gases. I transfer the GANs of the structure of the mouse on the Moon or another place, will take the shape that mouse can exist and creates its own mass in interaction. But in essence, it's the same plasma. You cannot do that with a mass. A GANs of carbon will exist anywhere in the world, in the universe. A mass of carbon as a matter state is environmental dependent on fields and the strength and inertia. Because then if it doesn't fit, it disappears or cannot manifest itself due to whatever. It doesn't matter, it has the same mass. This is part of the flaw in the present science. And they have convinced us to accept it because they never understood it. In a high strength field, you cannot stay what you are, impossibilities. If you're in the mass state. But as a GANs, as a plasma, you accept higher order strength in the what we call in the volume of the GANs, or lower strength. You adapt into it. It's like elastic. But in a mass, you don't have that flexibility in the matter state. If you understand this in a different way, when we send you gas bottles, when you receive a CO2, see how much is in there, and when you receive a copper, see how much is there. That reduction comes from interaction of the fields of the gases, when in fact should have no matter state. If we try to give you the 100 gram of a metal, it'll be just the dust at the bottom of the bottle. But when we give you the gas of the copper, it has a volume. Try it. Weigh 100 gram of copper in a dust form, or 1 gram of it, you can't produce 100 of it, and then weigh 1 gram of gas in there, and look at the expansion of the height in the bottle. This exhibition center is gone. You're putting the pictures up. They will release the pictures from the new permanent exhibition center of the Keshe Foundation very soon. Keeping this picture, when this exhibition was set up, the same people that are scaring you with and nano and graphene called the owners and the directors of this exhibition center, frightening them. These machines are going to do this and that and a lot of what I call rubbish. And they told him, he's a nuclear physicist, he knows what he's doing. You're just talking nonsense. He advises Austrians know what sits the very sits the truth and the knowledge. Any other question?
Yes, we can go back to Lisa from Australia, from the Plasma School Library, Australia, who asks, in the cup of the universe, we must use a mix of salts. Could Mr. Keshe please expand on these salts in a general way in relation to the human body? Lisa, Australia.
Yes, Lisa, Australia. Different products or different materials create different inertial field forces, like as we have on Earth or somewhere else. To get away from inertial levels of, let's say, iron or copper or whatever, in the liquid state form of the body of the man, the inertias for conversion of what we call reverse inertias by conversion of the matter to plasma or field is done by the presence of what we call salts. Or in a way, salts, you call them, in the terminology of plasma physics, in the direction of the life or dynamism or flexibility, we call it salt or inertial system. And different salts create different inertial strength that different materials can open up from matter state into what we call plasma state. And different variation of salt create different inertias. Like you have inertia which creates copper, you have inertia which creates sugar, what you call, let's say, carbon. So instead of creating inertia of matter in a confined body of the man, the body has adapted itself, has created a mixture of material which they do the same thing as inertia in the surface of the earth. And in the earth condition, you have a magma which creates that dynamic, what we call reference point for interaction of the creation of different inertias. In our body, the blood does the same. So the salts are variation of the salts, and percentage of the salinity of the salt is what dictates what we call the position and composition of what changes from matter state into the plasma state, inertia level. As simple as that. On Earth, we have inertias on the matter state. In the body of man, to create that inertia, we create salt to do it. And different inertia levels, salts, what we call salinity, and mixtures allows different manifestation from the same plasma. It's the same amino acid with different salinity or different field strength inertia. The same amino acid becomes a cell of a heart. The same amino acid in different salinity becomes a cell of a kidney. And that's all it is. Unless you want me to make it very complicated to tell you I'm very clever, that will not happen. You have to understand the principle. Salts are, in a way, inertia creation in the body of the man. And you have Earth with what we call the magma and different plasmatic magnetic fields of the mass ratio of the matter. It creates inertia, which creates a magnetic field, which absorbs what we do, like in your boxes, from the energy to matter state. So it's the same with the salt. And that salinity, again, dictated by the matter which needs to be created, which is connected to the emotion. I need something to get rid of what I eat in a liquid state. So the body creates different salts, creates different system of filtering, creates a kidney that allows you to get rid of the extra water which you intake. So in fact, the cause or the creator of salts is partially embedded in the emotion of the man. This is why how we get cancers. Through emotion, we change the salinity, and a prostate from not being cancerous become cancerous because it produces different material. Now today you have 4 PhD degrees up to now, all of you. You understand more than professors in universities about nano, now about salinity, and the other topics.
Okay, well, we're working our way up now to the soul questions, I guess. We have a question from Salamia in the Q&A in the chat here. The question is actually from Ione from Romania. When our soul is lifted and we no longer eat or kill the animals, what will they do? Will carnivores elevate too, and how? Thanks.
The same. You're another animal. Why do you think you're the only one who gets elevated? The process is understanding stronger plasma feeds the weaker plasma. So if you reach that strength of the maturity, you'll feed to the other stuff. We have already started this process, but it's so hidden, but it's so beautifully getting done. A lot of you are spraying cup 1 or cup of CO2 or ZN, spraying it, or cup number 2 around the world every Sunday. And many people continuously, as I said before, produce gases and wash their pots and pans of which make gases into the sewage system. Now see how many knowledge seekers are making gases and how much energy than the matter state we are putting back into this planet. And in that process, gradually the soul of the planet and the man who lives in it will be elevated. And the animal will drink from the same water as the man does. In London and major cities, big cities, many men cannot produce enough sperm to father a child. They have weak sperm. And as we said before, and scientifically proven, it comes from the conception pills which women take not to get pregnant. They leave the residual in water wastes, and the man eats it, and affects his from being a man to more or less no man. If you understand that cycle of work, how many of you in the cities and countries are washing your gas plates and cups into the drain system, and the others are drinking it? The fish, the rat, process another man. I'm getting you all very, very slowly. Many of you make gases and you spray. Put half of those gases in your drain system. You feed it from the top and the bottom. The soul of the fish and the ones who swim in the water elevates as much as those you spray for the man and the beast. And don't forget, a single atom in a gas state can fill up the solar system. How many gases you are throwing into the seas and waters, waterways, and how many of the gases you wash your dishes in London without knowing has gone through the water pipe, and maybe the next door neighbor who uses somebody in London down the road used it. Receiving a new energy has changed his life and nobody notices. We've done some tests, many tests, and one of them is we had aggressive behavior between 2 or 3 different families in the house between husband and wife. Extremely aggressive. That they had no control, more or less. All we did, we placed ganses of a specific order in the houses. We saw the house changes. The family changed, the behavior changed. If we can pass through the air in the family by just putting a jar of specific gases, then you can see what you can do with the rest. We have changed the method. They couldn't stand talking to each other. Now they don't get enough of talking to each other. So gradually, the bird passes you, the fly who sits on the gas you spray, the butterfly which passes on the drop you put on the petrol station and it's out by the light of it, all are getting elevated this point. As I said to somebody very recently, says, what are we going to do when we clean the air from CO2? I said, nothing. We put it in a drainage system and change the citizens too. And the other question. It's a very strange thing, just something very strange. I explained this before. Maybe you understand more. We call the CO2 global warming and danger. We take the same global warming, the same CO2 from the air, we convert it to a gas and become the basis of life for bringing comfort to life. The same material, nothing else. Now you can imagine how much you can change your society just by converting CO2 into gases and energies. One, according to the scientists, killing the planets, and by conversion is feeding the planet. And it'll bring changes. The first of these units, conversions, will be tested in Tehran in the next few days. And we will start seeing the change of weather in Tehran. Hopefully, thanks to the work of the Keshe Foundation. And thank you to the Chinese Keshe Foundation producing the systems. As long as you buy a system from Keshe Foundation and try to see it only benefits me, you get a part of the benefits. If it's there to benefit the others, you get all of the benefits. If you buy a CO2 unit, I have no use for it, why should I buy it? Buy one and let it produce CO2 gases and feed into the water systems. Clean up is the most charitable things you can do to the whole human race. Converting the damages back into food and energies which the plants and animals can use. Not what it gives has to have a benefit because you benefit others. I explained this to the officials and they understood. And now we're on tests. Any other question? Hello, Rick. I think I'm the only one left. Being the co-host, the system stays on. These are the problems we have. Yeah, Rick has dropped off. And if there are any questions, please write it in the chat. And I try to answer it till Rick comes back. Live stream still goes on. we are on it. It says, does a neutron inside the uranium atom has the same field strength as the neutron inside the hydrogen atom? How can we rank the strength of the magnetic fields in a periodic table? Is liquid oxygen a gas? Liquid oxygen is not a gas. It's a compression of the field in a matter state. All the neutrons have a spectrum of energies. All the neutrons are not exactly the same, but the bandwidth of the field of a neutron is dictated by the central gravitational field forces of the universe. So in each universe, we have different field strength spectrum according to the position of that universe in the unicos. Because its field strength control to the minimum common denominator of a plasma, we call it neutron. And is primarily controlled by what we call the gravitational pull on the whole structure of the inner strength of the position of the universe in a galaxy of unicos. The way we have galaxies that make what we call a universe, we have clusters of universes which makes the galactical universes. In one of the papers I have mentioned this. This structure is the same. And the way each unicos creates its own central gravitational field gives it an identity. Like this universe, we call this an oxygen universe because it has a field of the oxygen, and the other one is copper, the strength. And this dictates how much of fields of what strength can be maintained in that universe. So our nitrogen or our hydrogen equivalent in another universe is not necessarily the same amount of fields in it. Are there any other questions? It seems that we have lost Rick, and we'll wait to see if he can rejoin or he just lost his power. Are there any other questions? There's a question from Mark Carlton Anderson. How does enrichment of uranium to a high level contribute to increased security and peace for the nations and inhabitants of the planet? The enrichment of the uranium, the way the Keshe Foundation has put forward, creates a condition of equality access to energy and supply, where every nation can produce its own, what we call energies, without a need to look for another to do. And the access to enrichment of uranium with the Iranian government is not for the purposes of defense, but is for purpose of the space technology development. I developed this technology in early 1980s, and in late who is this guy who's put, please use my contact for reply. We will disable you attending any more Telegram meetings, sir. Cam. Can you delete this and block him to come in? We explained before, anybody who does these things will be blocked. It's the last time you'll appear on the Keshe Foundation, Zoom or other channels. The production of uranium or plutonium or hydrogen in the new understanding of the field processes of the creation universe will create a condition that enriches all of us with whatever we need, and this creates a condition of peace. We don't enrich uranium to use it for weapons. We use it for distribution of the energy and fields. And it's a technology, as I said, I developed in late 1970s when I was in university, and 1980s. Because working with, as I was getting trained to become a nuclear reactor control designer, I could see easier way to create energies using a nuclear industry. And I developed this knowledge, which is a part of the now the Keshe Foundation technology for deep space travel. We don't look at uranium, we look at totally different aspects of what a large amount of fields can give us. The production of gases is for our human consumption. Production of uranium is for different aspects. I think Rick is back.
Yes, hello.
Rick, can you delete this guy in the background, please, and block him to attend anymore?
Who is that?
You lost the chat. We'll send you a copy of it. Block this guy and don't allow him to come into any more Zoom meetings.
Okay.
Yeah. I send you a screenshot. It's the last guy in the list. I'll send you the screenshot. Do you have any document or let him communicate?
Last person on the list that you sent me there.
Yeah, it's the Russian name.
Oh, okay. That's unfortunate. I think they were trying to communicate last time. All right. Not sure how to block. I'll have to figure that out. Stanley might have to do that in the background. Okay, thank you.
Just any other question? You're back again.
Okay, I removed them and they shouldn't be able to come back in.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
Yes, of course. We have several more questions. See, in the YouTube, we have a whole list here. Ram asks, thank you, Mr. Keshe. Can we use plasma technology to prevent and cure the destructive fires occurring every summer?
Yes.
We were thinking about that question in the plasma group, and it was mentioned about including ganses in the water that they normally put what they call fire retardant. They put fire retardant in when they spray the woods with fire retardant to prevent the flames and so on. And that fire retardant can get into the water supplies and into the food system and so on. So perhaps there is some combination of ganses or other plasma technology that could be used to replace that rather destructive technology.
We need the fires. We need it as part of the process of the life of this planet. If we stop all the fires, I mean the house fire, we can stop. But if you stop all the fires, the forest fires and the rest, the ecology of this planet will change. We interfere in a big way.
It's true that
the trees have to burn. The trees have to burn out during the cycle. They will fall. This is something which I always explain in so many ways. We look at the short space-time. No tree has lasted from the day when life started on this planet. And no animal has existed from day one. We have to respect the cycle of life. And if, let's say 100,000 trees burn in one fire, 10% of them will fall next year, another 10% will fall the year after. And the next 30, 40 years, the whole drop. And this is the problem we have. The cycle of life cannot be interfered with. If you worked or studied in biology courses or environmental courses, when you go to field, what we call excursions, if you pick a shell up, you have to put the shell back in. If you find an animal, you look at it, you put it back in, because you cannot interfere with the cycle of life just because you're there, you want to learn something. We can interfere for the fire not to get hold. But what's going to happen to this wood next year, next 10 years? It's going to fall. But a collective fires, the way we see it due to droughts or whatever, is part of the collective cycle of the life on this planet. We have to accept it. It has been there with what we call the forest fires or that kind of fire. That's how man learned how to cook. So the fire from the creation. We can stop fires. The technology of it is there, and we are talking to a number of organizations in that respect for development of these kind of systems. There is an Iranian team who works on this, and they use a sound, new system with the sound that they can close the fires and whatever, and are looking at into applying the Keshe Foundation technology to it, and we have the technology to do so. Most probably in the coming months we'll market it, but it's a restricted zone. We have the knowledge and the technology now. It's not something we're going to work on it to come, but as I said, we kept huge number of technologies in the background until we can launch it collectively in one go, that we bring rapid change, and this is part of that change. And as I said, gradually we're building it up, and with the position we have in new structure with new Iranian government, His Excellency President Raisi, you will see technologies emerging out of Iran, which has been the dream of the man. If, as we see technologies used, and we see the right way, we release massive technologies out of Iran. And as I said, this is a gift to the new administration. If they use it, we work very closely to bring it all, we all can everybody. And the signs are good. And once the system settles down, they've been in power for more or less a week today, the next 3 or 4 weeks. And then we will see rapid release of new technologies from Iran. And fire extinguishing is one of them. It's developed partially. I saw the basis of it about 2 years ago in Dubai with the Iranian team, and it can be expanded very rapidly worldwide. Do not interfere. I mean, we would like to see not the houses burned or whatever, but this is a part of life. We intrude into the wild, and sometimes we get taken by it. But we cannot change. If we stop the fires, if we stop the hurricanes, if we stop the tornadoes, then what's going to stop? The whole thing is like putting a what I call a screw or a spanner in a work of a clock. It cannot work. Every wheel does its job. That clock works. We can't put, just because we have a spanner, we can't just throw it in and just stop one of the wheels. The rest of the wheels will stop too, will change. And it comes to the point, if you get the strongest wheel, the whole thing most probably will crash.
You can imagine the arguments if we figure out how we can stop the rotation of the Earth. And some people will be saying, no, you can't stop it. And some will say, we have to stop it on our country so we get more light than you, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but we have to understand the process. We have to understand. Without the forest fires in Amazon or in Canada or in California, we do not have what is the other resources which they create.
Mm-hmm.
Or we want to stop. Disasters like Fukushima, we have to have technologies to stop. We have it now. It's again, it's available to be done. But even from landslides to earthquakes, it's a process of life. We cannot stop. Otherwise, the whole mechanism of this planet changes. The earthquake on Earth doesn't make any difference on the position of the, what do you call it, the sun or its path. It's just inherent.
The foresters in Canada are starting to recognize that idea, and that the indigenous people, the natives that were here before the white man came and settled and so on, they actually had techniques for burning the forest deliberately at certain times in order to make sure that they didn't have a larger fire later that would take out the entire forest, kind of thing. And they managed the forest that way by controlled burning. And now that technique is becoming more accepted, and they're saying now that this is the way of the future, is through these controlled burns, rather than this thing of trying to prevent the burning of the resource. The government looks at it as a resource, and they're trying to prevent losing their resource. But by that prevention, it builds up the burnable material in the forest too much and makes it even more burnable and even more of a big fire than it would be if it was maintained by deliberate burning at certain times. So it's very interesting how the cycles come around, and finally the old techniques are being accepted.
We force our way because at the time looks good, and then we find out the forces of nature are bigger than man's greed and thoughts, and we submit to it. We have this situation now in Holland. In Holland, for decades and centuries, they made docks and they claimed land into adding to the mass land of the nation. But about 20 years ago, holding these docks was very, very hard, and maintaining them. And at a point about 20 years ago, the Dutch government agreed to reflood or give the land back to the sea, because man could not hold, because the nature forces were much more stronger. They would have taken it back in one way or another. We see that with the new land mass they're trying to create in Dubai. They made a palm, and maintaining it to stay as a palm the way it is very hard. They're spending a fortune maintaining it, because the oceans are claiming back. The Persian Gulf waters are claiming it back. And then they made, I think it's called the continent, or the countries near to it. And nobody's moving onto this. And if they leave it within months, there'll be no continent left. It's like, Europe, and then you have Germany or whatever in it, and you can buy these countries or whatever, I think, if I'm correct. is in a circle shape. And the last time I was in Dubai, none has been sold more or less except one to the Sheikh of Dubai, I think, if I was correct. And if you leave it, then the Gulf will claim its own sandbag. These are the forces of nature we cannot stop. We can divert in the small areas. There are trials in South China Sea with the Chinese. They are claiming huge amount of ocean by building what I call fake islands to extend their territory. And some of these islands need energy, power, and some of these islands need to survive because they've been made in the path of the annual hurricanes. And sooner or later they'll be coming back. There are technologies available that we can cover these things, but within limitation and acceptance of the reason for it. Any other question?
Jan has a question in the YouTube. It's a neutron question. Does a neutron inside an uranium atom have the same field strength as a neutron?
I read that one while you were away.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
While you went for your coffee break.
Wish I had time for that. Actually, I gave up coffee recently.
Do you want to go for a break and we come back?
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks everyone. This is the 393rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, August 12th, 2021. We'll take a short break here and be back in a few minutes.
We are beings from the universe, living in nature, finding our way, making our path through time, looking for beauty. That is why we created the Keshe Foundation Guns Mask, to keep your beauty, to rejuvenate the skin and help it stay young through your life. The Keshe Foundation space technology embedded in the mask brings balance not only to your body and mind, but also balances your soul. Enjoy living happily in balance and beauty. Keshe Guns Mask, your beauty from the universe. Water is the foundation of our life. It is part of every living creature. Pure water gives you the energy of nature. Now you can have this energy in your home. The Keshe Foundation Alkalizer and Energizer is designed for your daily well-being. It increases the pH of the water so your body can absorb more oxygen and stay in its natural condition during the day. Keshe Foundation Alkalizer and Energizer. Be pure like the water.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Knowledge Seekers Workshop, 393rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, August 12th, 2021. Well, Mr. Keshe, how would you like to proceed in this second part of the workshop?
Are there any more questions?
Well, we do have a hand up here from Farzam. Farzam, can you, would you like to open your microphone and go ahead? I'm asking to unmute, but I'm not sure if he's able to do that. Farzam, if you can open your microphone and if you'd like to go ahead. Well, perhaps it was an accidental hand up.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm looking at YouTube here. Dan would like to understand that the plasma water produced with the GANs with good intentions, is it that the information will last forever? Will last you forever?
What does it mean?
I think he's asking when you create the GANs water, plasma water, will that information last forever? Is it does it have a shelf life, essentially, I think is what he's asking.
When you make gases, they have a shelf life as they give the energy to the other plasmas, yes. But as an energy lifetime or process.
So would you say the GANs itself would last forever, but the dilution of it would...
It will dilute into different strengths and what other needs to take from it. This is what we say in most of the teaching. You cannot steal, but what's available freely is there for you to use. So when you make a GANs of magnesium, full bottle, and then after a few weeks you see you got half of the bottle GANs, that energy of the GANSes has been distributed to what is needed in the room where you are. If you produce very, what I call soft, not density GANSes, and you put in the bottles, you will see them, they reduce and they deplete. Partially is to do with the inertial pull in gravity of their own mass or their own field, and partially is that they're feeding the environment. There are certain gases when you put in, as I said, in the houses with huge emotional problem, you'll see they deplete, but the people change. What kind of aggression will change? What do we feed? The spread of the strength of the field is part of the what you call new space cities. By dispersing fields of a given strength from the gases, we can change even the mood of the man. If you have a what we call, especially this is part of the work we have tested in sporadic ways years ago. Let's say if you have a riot in the city, or people are there to create the condition. With a new technology, you can change them. Doesn't mean, what I said to a security guy, we change it from demonstration to protest, if you understand what I mean. Before you have a violent act, in a way, if you have a drone that can spray or create the fields of a given strength, you find out people still talk what they want, but they don't move into the aggression part. It's not a mind control, it's not the thing, is satisfying the emotion. We're not creating herd of lambs. You still have your opinion, we don't change your mind. It's just we change the aggression behavior as part of the emotion. You don't talk, you don't touch the line of thinking. You change your emotion from being aggressive. These are the parts of the development of the technology, especially in what we call institutions, in like prisons, like hospitals. It costs a lot to keep a criminal locked up. It costs very little to change what we call the emotion. And those technologies we have. I developed this years ago, but now I see it, as I said, time for a lot of things to be released. Any other question?
Okay, let me see here. Sebastian from Slovenia has a question. Says water has substances, frequencies, and protocols present in the water network. So the water is not in a GAN state. How to remove everything with GANs except with its own light? Move everything with you. I think what he's saying is how to remove all the substances, frequencies, and stuff that's present in the water, the information in the water,
Ganses.
to make it pure, I guess.
Ganses.
Ganses is the answer.
Ganses is the answer. But you gotta know which gans to use.
You've addressed this somewhat in the Fukushima teachings.
Yes, is how we do it. It'll be very interesting because we have seen it in agriculture in China. I would love to have access to what I call sea life, which has mutated due to Fukushima, and put them in a tank with the specific gases and see if we can reverse the evolution or damages of the Fukushima, as we call it. But there's another point to look at, as we just said about the fire. Would this accident lead to creation and mutation of the sea life or wildlife that in the future will lead to a much more higher intelligence life on this planet? Are we, if we interfere to reverse the mutation or what has been created, is stopping a much more advanced life cycle, not necessarily like man, but fish cycle to be created? Not everything is negative. Maybe man's life started from one of these deviations, one of these accidents. Maybe a block of carbon fell in the water and changed the acidity, and in that pond started the cycle that could life exist.
For example, there's certain pine trees that the pine cones don't actually grow into pine trees until the forest burns. And when the forest burns, the temperature goes up enough where the pine cones are in the ground that it melts the resins that hold the seed together in the pine cone and allows the pine cone seeds to disperse. And then the pine comes up to replace the previous forest that was a different variety and wasn't really suited for that fire environment, and the pine will take over. So that's a kind of example of a different life form is ready to go basically for that environment.
We got to accept evolution, and maybe because of it, a new what they call advancement in the cycle of life on this planet. This is part of the progress, and we cannot stop any of these processes. But some accidents can lead to creation of new kind of life. We don't know. If you are here in a million years and trace it back, it says, oh, there was a nuclear explosion somewhere, and that was the point where we can see the start of mutation. The best example of this comes from Lisa and Jim in Australia. In some of their communication months ago, as they have an aqua farm growing their vegetables, they found some fishes which were in the main tank, which they didn't think would be there, and they grown so much and they changed so much. But by literally digesting the gases in the bottles, the energy from them, and growing differently. And we all get affected one way or another by changes. We have no say in it. Are there any other questions? You wanted to show something. Right.
Oh, yes.
As a tribute to someone.
Yeah, let me bring up the Wikipedia entry here, and I'll have a look at that. Give me a second.
There are people who want, while you're busy with that, who want to come to the new exhibition center in Linz. Please go through the same process as before. Register, and you'll be given when you want to come and everything else, that we organize it for it to be there. The new exhibition is in a way isolated, that is you have to access it, and please make the same booking as before, and we'll see how the time can be given for your visit. Go ahead. I'll go silent.
Okay, well, before the workshop, I had mentioned to Mr. Keshe that in the Keshe Plasma Reactor group, I brought up this idea, this tribute actually to a person that's, well, his name is Paul Hellyer, as you can see in the title here. And he just passed away a few days ago on August 8th. And he was 98 years old when he died. And he was very active even up till time of his death. And he was, as they say here, a Canadian engineer, politician, writer, and commentator. And they get into his political life and so on. He was actually the defense minister for Canada, the Minister of Defense for Canada for 4 years in the mid-1960s during the Cold War times and so on. And it goes on to give a description. He was an engineer that took aeronautical engineering and had his private pilot's license and so on. And he was very active in politics and was kind of outspoken in many ways. And it gets into his political thing. But the interesting thing about Paul Hellyer is, well, you kind of get the idea what he's like when, I'll read this part here. On June 3rd, 1967, Hellyer, by then he would have, I think he was still the Minister of Defense in June. I think he retired from that, or passed on the helm in November or something in 67. Hellyer flew in by helicopter to officially inaugurate an unidentified flying object landing pad in St. Paul, Alberta. The town had built it as its Canadian Centennial Celebration project, and as a symbol of keeping a symbol of keeping space free from human warfare. The sign beside the pad reads, "The area under the world's first UFO landing pad was designated international by the town of St. Paul as a symbol of our faith that mankind will maintain the outer universe free from national wars and strife, that future travel in space will be safe for all intergalactic beings. All visitors from Earth or otherwise are welcome to this territory and to the town of St. Paul." It goes on that in early September 2005, Hellyer made headlines by publicly announcing that he believed in the existence of UFOs. On September 25th, 2005, he was an invited speaker at an exopolitics conference in Toronto, where he told the audience that he had seen a UFO one night with his late wife and some friends. He said that although he had discounted the experience at the time, he had kept an open mind to it. He said that he started taking the issue much more seriously after watching ABC's UFO special in February 2005. And it goes on, and where the Ottawa, in 2007, the Ottawa Citizen paper reported that Hellyer is demanding that world governments disclose alien technology that could be used to solve the problem of climate change. So he says, "I would like to see what alien technology there could be that could eliminate the burning of fossil fuels within a generation. That could be a way to save our planet. We need to persuade governments to come clean on what they know. Some of us suspect they know quite a lot, and it might be enough to save our planet if applied quickly enough." And in an interview with Russia Today in 2014, Hellyer said that at least 4 species of aliens have been visiting Earth for thousands of years, with most of them coming from other star systems, although there are some living on Venus, Mars, and Saturn's moon. According to him, they don't think we are good stewards of our planet. So that's a little bit about him, and he's written over a dozen books, some of them very critical of the banking systems and politics and so on. And he's got one of his books called "Light at the End of the Tunnel: A Survival Plan for the Human Species," and so on. So to me, he's kind of one of my heroes, because I remember in 1967 when he opened up that UFO landing pad, and I thought how kind of strange that was at the time, but it was kind of cool. The Minister of Defense actually engaging in that, which is a strange concept. And it turns out in 2005 and 6, when he started going public about this and claiming that UFOs exist, he was the highest ranking person in the world to come forward with that claim and actually, not be senile when they're doing it, or coming from a. He was very educated and very straightforward, honest, and I think he's one of the greatest sort of unknown Canadians, because the news media would barely touch him. I don't even think they mentioned him when he passed away. And yet he's been extremely active. He actually started a new political party in Canada and so on, and almost became prime minister at one time. So what I did is I actually communicated with Paul Hellyer a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, and I just wanted to reach out to him and see if he could make some sort of connection with the plasma technology and so on. So I'd like to, and we had a few correspondences back and forth at that time, but I'd like to read the letter that I wrote because he was 95 or 6 at that time. And, I figured if one of us passed away, I didn't know if he would or I would first. He's pretty tough. And I thought I'd better reach out to him and just say what was in my heart. So this is the way the letter went. To Paul Hellyer, I want to express my gratitude for your presence and for your efforts over the years. Your work has helped to lay the groundwork for the amazing changes which are now occurring on planet Earth. People are warming up to communications with other world entities and are interested to travel within our solar system and beyond. We begin to recognize that chaos and injustice on this planet needs to be addressed before we venture into deep space. Thank you for attempting to remedy the ills of the earth and for awakening those who need to hear the message of the universal community. You have been an inspiration for me and many others to carry on with the message that we are not alone in the universe and that we are preparing to go to space. Some with a spaceship and some without. I look forward to 2019 as a year of greatest change for humanity as we come together to leap forward. Cheers, Rick. And he wrote back to me, thank you very much for yours of December 28th. Your words are appreciated. Officially resigned from the email circuit December 31st, 2018 to save the 2 or 3 hours for other projects. Most important of these is a series of 5-minute YouTubes covering the 10 or 12 most important issues facing humankind at the moment. Warmest best wishes, Paul. So here he was, 96 years old, still active, making YouTube videos, informing the public, and basically being a bit of a pain in the butt to the powers that be. But I so much appreciate Paul Hellyer and his work, and I'm just happy to be able to acknowledge that he existed, and I thought he was a pretty cool guy. So that's my tribute to Paul Hellyer. And there's word out in the community that he's helping us on the other side now, even much more powerfully than he could from this side. So I think we have an ally on the other side that'll help our changes on this planet. Okay, thanks. I think that's about it.
Thank you very much, Rick. Any other question?
Okay, what do we have here? Well, I'm not sure about this. We'll try this one from Philip in YouTube. It says, Mr. Keshe, Mr. Keshe said, if you break through the light, so if you see the light of your soul, do you just stay there? And what's happening with your body when you're there witnessing it? I don't know if that question quite made sense, Mr. Keshe. Should I try it again?
Can you repeat that?
Philip says it's a little broken, but Mr. Keshe said if you break through the light, so break through the light. So if you see the light of your soul, I think break through the light so that you see the light of your soul. Do you just stay there? And what's happening with your body when you're there witnessing this light of the soul?
Not much and a lot. In so many ways, we become aware of transition. We become in both dimensions when the soul expands and when the soul retracts. In a way, when the physicality takes over. The physicality from its sense of vision through the brain sees the transition, not with the eye of the man. Because the eye transfers the fields or whatever, and then we see it as visual dimension. When you go through the transition of the soul, is the part of the brain which responsible for what we call transition of light or information to knowledge of, okay, this what I see is a book or whatever, we call it a knowledge, acknowledging that what is being seen. In the transition of the soul, the soul of the man works with that part, not with the physical vision as we see it. So we become aware of it in both dimensions. When the soul expands and when the soul retracts to become what I call encaged in the other. In so many ways, it's, as I always say, it's like a ship skin. You turn it inside out. What is out goes in, what is in goes out. And when the time is right, you do use it the other way. The vision of the expansion of the soul does not come through the eye of the man. It comes through the senses of the brain, which translates the information to what you call the transition. And in so many ways, dimension of physicality in its operation, when cannot exist, will merge inside the energies of the soul. In a way, it takes protection from what he has. And this is one of the biggest problems with the present man. As we are so physical, we want to be always in charge, in control. We don't allow the soul to show its beauty. It's a way of understanding of the work. And this is what we call the collaboration between the soul of the man and the soul of physicality. And this is part of the teachings, that how for man to understand, to trust, to let the soul to expand, that he can protect it. It's just something we are afraid of till we go in it and there is no fear because we become familiar with it. And this is the part which is man, and with the teachings we try to bring into you to understand. And when this happens, do not look for a visual manifestation of a light or dark or whatever we hear people talk, but understand the transition over what we call another dimension of the sensation we are not familiar with at the moment, but we are aware of it and we live through it. This is what I said, there are many senses that man is not, we cannot explain, and in time will be added to. And what I call the sense of vision, not the way you call it as vision, but the sense of vision in the plasma condition, the expansion of the soul of the man is very, very different than what we see with the eye, even though it's the same parameters. And this is part of what human race has to learn, that when such a thing happens, the soul is in charge. When such a thing happens, the physicality is in charge. And how do I work within each one? We talked about the disasters. If you suddenly find yourself surrounded in a forest with a fire, and in a physical dimension you burn, and the soul is free. But if you have the knowledge, the capability to transform and cocoon the physicality within the fields of the soul, as a field extension, you can move it anywhere and pop out on the other side of the forest when the fire is not and is clear, and then go to the transmutation. This is not something abnormal. Man and many of our ancestors who have been in touch with the civilization beyond this planet have seen it many times. It's now his turn for man to learn the process. And it's done through emotion, nothing else. And this is what we're trying to teach. When you look at the structure of the man in his brain, it's very simple. We all have it, but we have never used it. When you have the brain and you have the soul in the center, as long as all the energies of the soul, or majority of it, can be absorbed by the brain, you control, you dampen it, you blanket it. What about the point when you learn to do the other way? To feed from the physicality into the soul. That the soul expands and the brain of the man and the physicality is still intact, but the soul protects, expands its dimension. We do this when we are asleep. But in our sleep, we have learned a very clever way. We allow certain channels for our soul to open dimension of communication with outside or expand beyond. It's, if you look at a magnet, you have fields coming in and going out. In the structure of our brain, we have manipulated and learned over time that we allow only these fields to go out. We block the others to keep the physicality and lock the soul in. And this is the process that we have to learn. And it's a process of individuality and collective work of the fields of the body of the man, be it the soul or the soul of physicality. And this is what we call the spirit and the soul, and how we separate them, and how we allow one to transmute within the strength, within one into the other dimension and come back. Where we see a dimension of physicality we want to manifest ourselves, we reduce, and now we become physical. And when we choose in another point, we create the dimension of the soul as we like, even to the extent of clearing out most of the functionality of the brain. And then we, in so many ways, we take over. We choose. But when you do this, when you take to this position, then you have to supply enough that the physicality can keep on existing. That in a way, not the physical normal function of the brain, but the emotional function of the brain still exists, that you're aware of what's happening outside, but if need be, you can become physical dimension to see the outside. This is part of what we'll show with the enhancement units, part of what we'll show with new technologies and sciences which will come. We show this transition because it's important for us to understand. And once this is shown, the dogma of the religions will finish. Because is the priest talking to the soul of the creator, or is the priest talking to physicality of the man? And these are the things which will come with education and understanding. And to us at this moment is abnormal, but when you understand, you work in two different dimensions, they become very normal. To our new or next generation, some of us will become enlightened with the knowledge and the process of working with it. Just because the knowledge you don't understand does not mean it doesn't exist. And knowledge seekers have become very open-minded and understanding the physical transition between energy and matter. You understand and you can do. But when you want the soul to be in operation, the energies of it, not the soul itself, but when you want the energies of the physicality to be. But would we have eyes on the surface of another planet? Do we need it? Or the senses of our emotion, of our brain is good enough like a sonar to see everything with what I call the emotion of the vision of the soul of man. And very soon, majority of you knowledge seekers will reach that point. You are in the process of producing ganses without you knowing, that will reach to the point that it creates the emotion of what I call trust between the soul of the man and the soul of physicality. And then we will see. I explained this to someone some times ago, maybe in different shape or forms we can understand it. It's related to point of the trust of letting. Most of us have what we call a barrier. We don't let nobody passes that barrier. Could be 1 centimeter, could be 5 centimeters. And some of us are, we only allow certain people to shake hands with us, certain people to cuddle us. But we don't go beyond that point of cuddle, and we feel safe with it. And some of us, a certain point with the structure of a body of us, we allow what I call having a closer relationship. We decide on a matter of trust how much we allow who to be. On the street, somebody knocks you, say sorry, because you intrude into their what they didn't want to share. And you can knock to someone on the same street, but it's a friend, and it turns out, oh, it's you, and you get a cuddle and kiss for it. And the same one, we knock on the street, shoulder by accident, and you end up being our lover. We decide the process of accessibility and process of emotion acceptance. And this is what we have to do between our soul and the soul of physicality. The trust. At the moment, human beings are the ones who are knocking on the street and sorry, I'm on my own, you're not allowed in. We're trying to create that position gradually, that when you knock somebody on the shoulder by accident, walking, then you find out it's a friend. You cuddle, you kiss. You're there for me as much as I'm there. And then we have to move to a position that we become lovers. That the other become more important than me. In a way, as I said, in the forest position with the fire, I love the physicality of what I've created, that I stand out to protect it. And when the soul is in a position of not wanting to be, I take the position of what I call physicality. Man, at the moment, is in that knocking shoulder on the body on the street, and still having the fear of trusting to be a friend. And this is where we are in this cycle of man. And this is what, with education, we're trying to bring you to understand. What you have ignored is a friend you need. If you're going to go and find the love of Creator to become a lover. And this is where the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation sits. Allowing the man in the dimension of physicality to meet his Creator through the dimension of his emotion, or what we call, without tangibility and physicality, but in the dimension of the fields of the emotion. And then, when the man falls in love with his Creator through the dimension of his soul, that man has the freedom of to be what he wants to be at any point. Physical dimension, or dimension of fields of energy, as we call the soul. And this is a process we all have to learn if we would like to go through that transition. We go to churches, we go to mosques and pray to help or see the Creator. But it's us who has engaged the soul, who has the capability to be in touch with the Creator. We have put it in prison, and we would like to be able to dance with it, but we're standing outside the prison, and we are the prison keeper. To enjoy, to be able to enjoy your prisoner, you have to let him out, to be there on the dance floor to dance with you. And this is where the fear of man is. And this is an emotional love, which comes from the interaction of the field of the two, that you're always afraid that if the soul takes over, the physicality dies, where it's actually in reverse. When the soul takes over, the physicality gets a chance to survive. And this lack of trust in one's existence is what the others use to abuse the man in the dimension of physicality. When we shall meet with the world leaders and the religious leaders, we will ask for the rope and the turbine. Does not matter whatever, because they'll be enlightened to the truth, not to our presence. And this is what you shall see in a coming time, when The conditions are made that the man becomes enlightened through his own knowledge and not by control of the others, be it the physicality of the man or be it on the banner of any religion. You shall see this very soon, sooner than you ever expected. As I said to a very religious guy very recently, very soon the churches and the mosques which are created to shackle the man to fear of Creator become the school where they teach the man how to become free. The same building, the same structure, the same man, but instead of frightening him from his existence, it will enlighten him to see his Creator through the right way, to build trust between the soul of the man and the soul of physicality. And then you will see the change. Any other?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. We have a question in the YouTube from apparently an Iranian person. I had to translate it in Google. He wasn't named. Let me just get that. Ali from Iran or Iranian says, hello, Mr. Tavakoli. When, well, it's a rough translation. When Iran comes to unveil the enhancement unit? So I guess he's asking, when will the enhancement unit be unveiled in Iran?
I'm trying to be very diplomatic and very political at the same time. It'll be sooner than you can imagine. And at this moment of time, the way we see it, will be shown in Iran National Defense University as cornerstone of defending humanity and the nation. We expect it to be in Iran in the coming weeks. We have stood and supported the what we call correct outcome of what we see developing in Iran, and with it we support the nation with science and technology. We are in the early stages of this transition, and we will wait and see how the office of His Excellency President Rasaif Iran take the next steps in science and technology, and all the signs are extremely good. We have 100% trust, and we pay our respect to the Iran Prime Minister and his position as an extremely knowledgeable man, as he has moved from the head of Iran National Defense University to become the Minister of the nation, or in a foreign language, as the Prime Minister of Iran. We have a close collaboration with National Defense University, and we respect the offices of the new Iran president and the Prime Minister, we call National Minister. He is instrumental in expansion of the Keshe Foundation technology, the way you see it, and his wisdom has been part of the work of the Keshe Foundation expansion in Iran. That is why we sit very close, and him being the head of Iran National Defense University and now become the Prime Minister of Iran, has opened a lot of channels for Keshe Foundation. He's monitored our work for past 2 years very closely, and he is an extremely knowledgeable man, an extremely respectable scientist. And we see how, as part of the Keshe Foundation work, we will develop our technologies within the university, National Defense University of Iran. As you remember, the Corona report was done in conjunction with the scientists of National Defense University, with the instruction and support of the new Iranian, what we call Prime Minister. So the government is fully aware of our work, and we are within a structure. And all our technologies, the way we did the Corona report, will come out of the National Defense University of Iran. And we have no problem with this. In the next few weeks, once they get the approvals from parliaments and the support of our work goes, because they are fully aware of our work, and we have a lot to do. And we will show this in the coming weeks. They have no problem in developing further stages, especially in space transmutation, and what we're trying to keep with the university to show the first flight in June the 6th, 2022. It's part of the bigger picture which Keshe Foundation is involved, and we work.
Okay, we've got a hand up, Mr. Keshe from Azar here.
You heard that song that says, "Here comes trouble."
Good afternoon, Mr. Keshe.
Good afternoon, Azar.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a question. Mr. Keshe, if you remember, you said in the past that you have the ability to make man peaceful and take all of us to space. But the problem is, since all the information is in RNA, we still make the same mayhem in the space. Now, the question is, if the solar physicality is keep getting elevated, for example, say I keep getting elevated at the point my physical soul and soul matches each other, is that elevation of the physical soul that become to the point of highest point being transferred to the messenger, to the RNA and DNA instantaneously, or is it time lapse that is going to be taken in order to be imprinted in the RNA and DNA?
I'm going to answer you in a very, very different way, because it needs to be answered that way. First of all, I hope you enjoyed your cholo kebab in Tehran today. Secondly, what we forget is the cornerstone of the plasma technology and the teaching. And it is the word you use, elevation. In the world of creation, humbleness is the process of development of another soul. When you speak about the elevation of the soul, you speak about the elevation of the soul of the man, but you speak about humbleness of the soul of the physicality. And this is what man has not learned yet. You do not elevate the soul of the man as you consider. You make physicality so humble that he allows the soul of the man to show its beauty. Totally two different ways. And as long as you become thinking you're humble, but you're actually hoping to elevate the soul, you will not reach there. We take, in a way, we empty a jar to fill it up with something more. We humble the soul of physicality that allows the soul of the man to show itself. That's what we call elevation. And this is what many of knowledge seekers and mankind have not understood. You've traveled from India to South America and everywhere looking for all these gurus and the rest of it. But one thing I'm sure you have not realized. Have you ever seen a man who can show his soul, be arrogant and talking, walking tall? The humbleness comes from the virtue and from the understanding of the being so humble that the soul shows its beauty. We don't elevate the soul. We always, if we go back to all the teachings of the Keshe Foundation, we teach unconditionally and we give unconditionally. We are detached. It comes from humbleness. Because you realize what you have is nothing compared to what is behind the knowledge which sits behind. And then when you share the beauty of the main knowledge, it manifests itself. And it's the same with the man. Don't look for elevation. Look for humbleness. Look what we call for the servitude. We still live the life of the man. But with it, with the thoughts and not the physical work of it, with understanding the operation of it, you allow, instead of the elevation or freedom of the soul to come at the point of death, to be at all times.
And Mr. Keshe, what you're saying is instead of when you constantly think about elevation, actually nothing is happening. It's just like you have to be humble. But just like when you want to have a beautiful flower, you don't constantly think about the flower, but if you put a seed down and water it and take care of it and nurture it, the flower shows up. It means it has to do with our action more than thinking about elevation. Because thinking about elevation, nothing is going to happen, but my action actually justifies. The elevation happens naturally when you're humble, but when you think about elevation, nothing happens naturally.
You see, there are two different ways of action. One is a physical action, one is an emotional action. Not many men have found what you call elevation through the physical action. But many men have found elevation, as you call it, of the soul or freedom of the soul from the emotional action. And that's the difference. It gives you access to a different dimension. It gives you access to what you never want. You walk on the street and you think you're very generous and God will give you this and that. And you give money to a beggar or somebody you think he asks for money, he needs money to live. And you think you're very humble. You get nothing for it, more or less very little, except self-satisfaction. You walk a few meters away and you see a man in pain. And you wish I could carry your pain that you don't suffer. And then you find a few steps further an elevation and a knowledge, a freedom. And you think, oh, because I paid the man, it gave me the pleasure of this elevation. But it was actually the man who you took the pain of. And this is where mankind goes very, very deep in understanding that he's still attached to physicality. Because physical terminology has an end, but emotional and soul has not. Even though in time, it'll come to its own cycle of dispersing its fields. Even our soul has a transition time, but it depends what it goes to and what it gives to be as part of its transition to the next step. Or you just become what I call fertilizer gathered, and then you disperse it to grow some others in the future. So you have to understand what it means. Building mosques and churches and giving charity has not brought no such a one single elevation to no soul. But if you, in the process of building a mosque or a church, you build it for the souls to be elevated, for a man who needs food, come to church or to the mosque, and you look after it by and given the comfort of home, then you receive that elevation, because you took a suffering from a man. And this is exactly what is the opposite happening today. You get a beggar to go to church, the priest kicks him out. This is not your place. This is my place to beg from the people and steal from. You cannot steal from a man who already robbed the other people from their soul and their pocket. And I've told you many times, go to Vatican and walk around the bridges. On the bridges, the walkway to the Vatican, where you walk into the square, and just on the border where the line of Vatican is, move back 50 steps and look to the left. You see a lot of homeless people sleeping on the window sills of the Vatican's car park hidden behind, bringing coaches and coaches of Japanese, Chinese, Filipinos and the rest to put money in the coffers of the Vatican. And these people are Christian and they sleep hungry and in boxes. Then you pay more to, in a way, become part of the criminal part, to steal from the physicality of the man. I've stood many times and I see hungry and homeless people literally around the richest church in the world. They do not feed them, they do not help them, and they sleep in winter and summer in boxes on the windowsills and on the underground bridges around Vatican. You cannot rob from somebody who's already robbed everything. And this is where it comes. And you give something to a beggar, and you think you've done well and God will help you. That would act itself has taken from you even being elevated. then you understand more. Elevation of the soul does not come in the dimension of physicality. It comes through the dimension of emotion and thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Well, we're nearly half. So, any other question? Or shall we call it a day?
Well, you pretty much wrap things up here. Let me see. We have one question I'd like to briefly address, perhaps from Bernie, who asked me to ask this about whether there's a relationship between Mr. Keshe's GANs and the Cup of Life and similarities to the alchemy of old, as well as the Baghdad battery. He says, in many senses, it seems that Mr. Keshe is reviving a lost, ancient, advanced plasma technology and science.
We have taught man many times, but he never listened. Now we're teaching again. You understand? It's just like going to a class and failing, you go back and you sit for the same class again, but the same teacher.
Alchemy 101, once again.
Once again, you haven't learned, you have to resit the exam. The knowledge we have taught many times, but the man has not been ready as today. Part of it was due to communication, part of it was to isolation, and part of it was through control. It's the first time man has the true mass communication that everybody can listen at the same time and be able to share knowledge in that way. And this is why Keshe Foundation has such a capability to reach. And we reach very deep, very far. And we hear every day different events, and we realize how big is Keshe Foundation, how far we reached amongst the people. And the more I talk to knowledge seekers, or we see, we hear, it's amazing how many people know about the knowledge, or they use it, or they've been around it, and they take from it what they want. Then it's so frequent. And when you talk, people start telling you how much they know. They know the Keshe Foundation, they know the being that we were on the walking path last week, a few days ago, late night, and we were talking with friends, and the guy came shaking, literally was shaking more or less, and he says, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Are you Mr. Keshe?" I said, "I don't have a peace midnight in the middle of nowhere talking with friends." And I said, "Why is he shaking?" He said, "I can't stop shaking because I could never imagine I can meet you." And on the street, we are amongst people, and we've grown amongst people, and different time of communication is different ways. This is how Christ managed to cross from Jerusalem to Europe, because at those days nobody knew who he is. There was no means of communication to explain how he looked. Only few people in Jerusalem knew him. And now it's not that way. I was talking to Yusuf in Tehran a few days ago and says, you know what happened? They delivered the books. When they came to deliver the books, which is printed, it happened to be on the corridor downstairs. And the guy saw the books or whatever. He says, what's got to do, what is this with the Keshe Foundation? How do you know? He says, we are the officers of the Keshe. He says, I know about the Keshe Foundation, but I didn't know you are my neighbors upstairs. People know, and it happens all over. This time, the knowledge cannot be hidden. The governments have tried, the kings have failed, and the kingdoms will go with it because they fail. And many others will go with it. And the change will come. But this time, due mass communication, the knowledge will spread. It's not like before. Every time we give a knowledge, a few groups, cities, or whatever they spread it, or they use it to create more mayhem. This time, we use it to create peace. The knowledge is the same, and the teacher has not changed for thousands of years. It's the same teacher, just moving from one city to another. And now it's time. We have access to mass media. We teach again, but in much deeper way, much understood way. And this time we'll bring the change. Because we made the facilities for it. We made the communications to it. And at this time, the whole planet listens. Through the soul, through the understanding of the knowledge. The ancient books you read is what we wrote. Now this time it's called book 1, 2, and 3. But in essence it's the same path. Any other question?
Well, perhaps we should leave it at there. Mr. Keshe, I think you covered pretty much everything here.
Very much.
There is a little piece of news that I'll just put it up briefly here, that in our contest with the Universal Enhancement Spaceship unit is coming along nicely. And this is
how far have you moved up to?
I have to tell people about it first. I'm building up to it. This is the Create the Future design contest put on by some major engineering and technical firms. And here's our Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit entry. And it's now up to 105 votes. And if we go over to the number of votes here, we can see that we haven't made it into the top 10 yet, but we are tied for number 14 position. And if we get another 10 to 20 votes, we'll be in the top 10 out of over 500 entries in this contest. So we've rapidly increased from position number 26 right up to position 14 the last couple of days. And now this is just for the popular, what's called the popular vote, which is the public support basically for these devices and things. There's actually a panel of 24 judges which judge each entry in September, and that's separate, and that's what actually counts toward winning the actual contest. But the top 10 leaders in the popular vote, which we see here, will also be promoted, and it'll be as part of the.
So you're asking knowledge seekers to go in there and vote for you.
Yes, basically that's what it comes down to, and there is a how to vote page here up on the left side, and it tells you that there's 3 steps. You have to register. And the registration is, you have to fill out all these parts of the registration form. And then once you're registered, they confirm your registration by replying to the email. You confirm it by replying to the email that we send you. And then you log in and vote for your favorite entry. So people can do that. That would be great. I'm just putting a plug in that I think it's great to support the Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit just to get it out there. Like Mr. Keshe was saying, we're in a world now where we have this amazing technology that we can communicate with each other and we can, interact. And I think it's great that we've activated the knowledge seekers and that support base is coming through and mobilized, and they're voting on this. And if we can vote it up into the top 10, I think that would be terrific just as a beginning. If it was number one, of course, that would be my preference, but I'm kind of greedy that way, I guess. But I think it's this unit deserves to be at the top of this competition, I think. So if we can all help to do that, then I think that'd be terrific. I'll put the
when does the competition finishes?
I think it's at as far as I know, it's at the end of this month. So we have another 2 or 3 weeks to vote. So we'll see. The top votes are for, I think they're up in the 200 and 300 votes sort of thing. So we'd have to double and triple the number of votes we have now in order to take that.
You got to plug it in everywhere, but let people decide.
Yeah. Yep. So it's kind of fun in any case, and it's no doubt raising some eyebrows in the medical part of this competition, which is, by the way, sponsored by Zeus. That's the category sponsor for the medical category, which is kind of odd, but anyway. So there you go. I'll put the links in the chats, and people can choose to vote if you wish. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you for today. And hopefully we meet next week. And I think very soon we'll be starting our 9th year of teaching. And we'll see how we go. We hope to develop more. And as we said, hopefully next week, we'll be introducing the mask enhancement plasma units and a couple of new systems. And there's a huge shortage of oxygen systems. We try to see how we can get the export license certificates out of Iran that many people have been waiting for, especially a lot of governments, and with their response, especially for Corona. Thank you very much for today, and we hope we meet next week. And as they say, keep safe.
Okay, thank you once again, Mr. Keshe, for another Knowledge Seekers Workshop. 393 of them so far. And this has been the Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, August 12th, 2021. Thanks to everybody for attending and for your questions today. And we look forward to being here next week at the same time and place. The universe provides for that. And what else do we have coming up? We have on Tuesday, what is the date on Tuesday? It is Tuesday, August 17th. We have the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace, which people can attend and listen to members of the Universal Council present their presentation. Probably forgetting a couple things, but that's basically it. Another thing we could mention is the North American Corona Group, which occurs on the weekend as well. There's notices in the usual places for that. Okay, I think that's it. I'll play some ads to go out on here. And thank you very much, everybody. And we'll see you next time around.
Innovative, revolutionary, stellar development, purest universal knowledge. In a transformative, futuristic design. The Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit. The very first new evolutionary spaceship technology has been rolled out for mass production. Our Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit is constructed from high-quality materials carefully selected by our team of experts. Embedding the essence of the new GANS plasma science and technology, it uses collective plasma field technology for changing and enhancing the environment of the body of the man. This new plasma enhancement changes the environment of the body to allow it to return to its natural balanced energetic condition, as in the womb of the mother, allowing every cell in the body of the man to find its natural original field strength balance. The shape and field distribution in this new space plasma technology replicates the inner structure of the universe and replicates the balance fields from which the man was created at the point of allowing every cell in the body of the mother not only receiving balance in the physical, but also in the emotional sense too. For the first time in the history of man, a system has been developed and delivered which not only enhances the physical body of the man, but also enhances the emotional part of the user of the system, hence reducing and eliminating many problems that could not be solved in the world of science, to bring the body of the man into near perfection, as at the time of birth. This new spaceship technology can be within the reach of every man today and can be ordered by medical practitioners, sports specialists and healthcare centres. The Universal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, the future you have been waiting for, is here. The journey from space to spaceship technology has started. Every order is subject to a contractual agreement and might require additional accessories priced separately for applications according to each case. You can order or contact us at office@at.kfm.global for additional information. Hello. We are the Keshe Foundation. Our mission is to bring peace on Earth and join humanity with the universal community. We wish and work to bring man as equal to all beings in the universe. By teaching plasma science and technology equally to everyone, no one is left out and no one is abused due to lack of knowledge. By donating to us, you can help achieve this goal. keshefoundation.org/donate.
Hello, Dean. Can you hear me? Over. You need to close the workshop here if you can hear me, because you're host. Hello, Dean. Hello, Dean. Not sure if you can hear me. Oh my.